The courtroom was so quiet that Harper Ellis could hear her own heartbeat struggling inside her chest. Across the table, Brandon Hale tapped a Mont Blanc pen against the divorce papers, calm and impatient, as though ending their marriage were nothing more than another business deal. His lawyer smirked whenever Harper hesitated. Every document had already been prepared in Brandon's favor. Every account had been frozen. Their shared car had been sold, and Harper had been forced out of the apartment she had helped pay for. By the time she entered that courtroom, Brandon had stripped away nearly everything she owned. Harper reached for the pen with trembling fingers. She had not eaten since the previous day, had barely slept, and had only $27 left. The pressure in her chest tightened again, a warning from the heart condition she had managed alone for years. "Let's move this along," Brandon said, adjusting his cufflinks. "Some of us have lives waiting." He meant Avery, his young assistant, the woman he had been openly parading around town after telling Harper she was no longer useful to him. Brandon wanted his sick, exhausted wife erased quietly so he could begin his new life without inconvenience. Harper lowered her eyes and signed. Brandon leaned back with a satisfied breath. "You'll land on your feet eventually. Women like you always survive somehow." He had no idea Harper had been fired that morning by a manager who owed him favors. He did not know she had nowhere to sleep that night. And he certainly did not know that the courthouse clerk reviewing their final documents had just discovered a hidden financial record, one that could expose Brandon's betrayal, reverse everything he had taken, and make the woman he discarded far more powerful than he ever imagined. He didn't know she had no family left, no home, no safety net. To him, Harper was already erased. She stood up slowly, sliding the papers across the table. Her voice barely held together. "We're done here." Brandon didn't bother replying. He was already checking his phone, already planning his evening, already celebrating her downfall. But as Harper walked toward the exit, clutching her coat against the winter wind leaking through the hallway, she didn't know one truth that would upend everything. Someone was waiting for her outside, someone Brandon never expected, and that someone knew exactly who Harper really was, and he wasn't going to let her disappear quietly. The cold air outside the courthouse hit Harper harder than she expected, slicing through her thin coat like a blade. Manhattan traffic roared around her, taxis honking, tourists laughing, business people rushing through crosswalks. Life moved on as if her entire world hadn't just shattered in a quiet courtroom 20 minutes ago. She tightened her scarf and started walking, unsure where to go. Her phone buzzed. She flinched. For a moment, she hoped irrationally that maybe someone cared enough to check on her. But when she looked down, the notification drained what little strength she had left. "Your account has been suspended. For inquiries, contact customer support." Her heart dropped. Suspended? That meant no card, no access, nothing. She exhaled shakily. "Brandon," she whispered to herself. Of course. He had always been 2 steps ahead when it came to control. He'd once bragged that he could erase someone financially in a day. She just never thought he meant her. Harper pushed forward through the sidewalk crowd. As she crossed 47th Street, her phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from work. "Effective immediately. Your position at Halden & Co. has been terminated. Your belongings have been removed from your desk. HR will not require an exit interview. Please do not return to the building." Harper stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. Cars honked. A cyclist swerved around her. She didn't move. Fired? No warning? No meeting? She needed that job. It barely covered her bills, but it kept her afloat. Without it, she was done. And being fired on the same day her bank account was frozen, that wasn't coincidence. That was orchestration. Brandon had planned everything. Harper forced herself to keep walking. She didn't have the luxury of breaking down here, not in the middle of Manhattan, not when she had nowhere safe to fall apart. When she reached a bench near Bryant Park, she sank onto it, letting the winter wind sting her cheeks. Her chest tightened again, too tight. Her heart condition always acted up under stress, but today it felt sharper, more urgent. She pressed a hand against her sternum and closed her eyes, counting slow breaths like her doctor taught her. In, 2, 3, out, 2. A shadow passed in front of her. She ignored it. People walked by all the time, but the shadow didn't move. Harper opened her eyes. A woman in a cream coat stood a few feet away, arms folded, watching her with a smirk carved of ice. Avery, the mistress. "Well," Avery said, tilting her head. Brandon didn't exaggerate. "You really do look defeated." Harper stared at her, stunned. Avery stepped closer, her boots crunching lightly on the cold pavement. I just wanted to deliver a message. Brandon says he hopes you don't embarrass yourself trying to fight anything. He's done with you. Harper swallowed hard. Why are you here? Because I wanted to see for myself. Avery gave a cruel smile. The ex-wife who thought she was irreplaceable. Harper looked away, her throat burning. She refused to give the girl the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. Avery leaned closer. Don't worry, Brandon's taking me to the investor dinner tonight, the one you used to go to. I'll sit in your seat. Harper's fingers curled tightly around the edge of the bench. Avery turned as if to leave, then paused. Oh, and Brandon said you should get used to losing. It's all you have left. Then she walked away, her perfume lingering in the icy air. Harper stayed frozen, breath shaking. Her life wasn't just falling apart, it was being torn from her piece by piece. She pressed a hand over her heart, struggling to steady her breathing again. And that's when a deep voice behind her said quietly, Harper Ellis? Harper stiffened at the sound of her name, her pulse thudding painfully against her ribs. She turned slowly, bracing herself for another blow, another stranger sent by Brandon to remind her how small her world had become. But the man standing behind her didn't look like any lawyer or messenger she'd ever seen. Tall, dark wool coat dusted with snow, cold gray eyes that carried something heavy, something she couldn't read. His presence felt out of place in the chaos of Midtown, like he belonged in a penthouse boardroom, not on a public sidewalk. Do I know you? Harper managed, her voice thinner than she hoped. The man studied her face with unsettling calm. You don't, he said quietly, but I knew your father. Harper's heart lurched. My father? The word tasted like an echo from another lifetime. Her parents had been gone for years, taken too early in an accident that shattered the rest of her youth. I think you're mistaken. No, he answered. I'm not. The certainty in his tone unnerved her. Harper straightened, pulling the last scraps of dignity around herself like a frayed coat. Who are you? Nicholas Arden. The name hit her like a jolt. Arden, as in Arden Capital, as in one of the most powerful private investment firms on the East Coast, as in the kind of man Brandon dreamed of impressing. Harper blinked. I don't understand. Why are you here? Nicholas glanced around at the busy sidewalk before shifting his gaze back to her. Your father worked with my company many years ago. I've been trying to contact you for weeks. I never got anything, Harper whispered. Brandon intercepted the notices, her stomach twisted. Of course he had. Brandon had always guarded access to her like he owned her. Emails mysteriously disappearing, letters she never saw, phone numbers she never saved because he insisted they were spam. Nicholas continued. Today I came in person and every 4. Harper wrapped her arms around herself, fighting a tremor. Why now? What does any of this have to do with me? Nicholas hesitated, not like a man uncertain, but like one searching for the right moment to drop a truth that would change her world. I'd prefer to speak somewhere more private. You look like you've had a difficult day. She let out a hollow laugh. That obvious? Yes. His voice softened just slightly. And I don't want you standing out in the cold while your heart is struggling. Her breath caught. How do you know about my heart? Your father's medical notes were part of his file. His eyes held something warm for the first time. He worried about you. Harper swallowed hard, emotions rising fast and sharp. What did he leave me? A file? A message? Her voice cracked. Anything? Nicholas didn't answer. Instead, he extended a hand. Come with me, he said. I'll show you. Day so. 2424, Harper hesitated. After everything that had happened today, trusting anyone, especially another powerful man, felt dangerous. But something in Nicholas's expression wasn't pity. It wasn't superiority. It was something far rarer. Recognition. As if he saw her when no one else had bothered to look. She stared at his outstretched hand. Her mind whispered danger. Her heart whispered hope. And somewhere between the two, she made a choice. She reached for him just as a black SUV screeched to a stop at the curb beside them. The black SUV's tires screeched as it halted beside the curb, splashing slush across Harper's boots. The door flew open, and a man in a charcoal suit jumped out, face tight with urgency. Harper recognized him instantly. Marcus, Brandon's head of security. The same man who used to nod politely at her in hallways, now looking at her as if she were a loose end that needed tying up. Mrs. Hale, he said sharply, ignoring that she was no longer one. Mr. Hale requests you come with us immediately. Harper froze. No. Marcus stepped closer, blocking the wind. It isn't optional. There are discrepancies in the financial reports from your department. Documents with your signature. Serious documents. Her stomach twisted. Brandon, of course. I didn't sign anything, Harper said firmly. He forged. Marcus cut her off. There are transfers, approvals, and missing records all tied to your login. If you cooperate, we can handle this discreetly. If you don't, his pause was intentional, heavy, threatening. It becomes a legal matter. Harper's throat tightened. Legal for what? I haven't done anything. Nicholas stepped forward before Marcus could respond. That's enough. Marcus stiffened, realizing who he was facing. Mr. Arden, he said with a quick nod, suddenly respectful. I'm acting under direct instruction. Nicholas's gaze sharpened. Harper Ellis is not going anywhere with you. He didn't raise his voice, yet the authority behind his tone cut through the winter air like a blade. If Brandon has concerns, he can address them through proper channels. Marcus clenched his jaw. This is internal company business. And she no longer works for that company, Nicholas replied. Marcus looked between them, calculating his next move. You don't understand. If she doesn't come with us, the board will proceed with filing claims. And from what I've seen, it won't look good for her. Harper felt her chest seize again. Her breathing thinned. Not now. Not here. Login records, she whispered. I haven't accessed anything, and Marcus interrupted. Exactly. Yet somehow your credentials approved multiple unauthorized transfers over the past 2 months. Hundreds of thousands. Her knees weakened. Brandon was framing her, completely, carefully, so that if she stepped out of line, if she dared to expose him, she'd take the fall first. Nicholas read it instantly in her eyes. Harper, he said calmly. Look at me. She did. His voice steadied her pulse. None of this is real. Someone manipulated your access. My husband, she whispered. Your ex-husband. Nicholas corrected gently. Marcus took a step closer. Last chance. Get in the car, Harper, or this escalates. Nicholas moved instantly, placing himself between them. If your employer wants a meeting, he can speak to her attorney. But if you continue this line of intimidation, I will personally make sure your company faces consequences. Marcus's expression flickered. Not fear, but recognition of the wrong opponent. Still, he didn't back down. You're interfering with an investigation, Marcus warned. And you're harassing a woman who just left the courthouse, Nicholas replied. Walk away. For a moment, Manhattan held its breath. Marcus finally exhaled, frustration tightening his jaw. He signaled his driver, and the SUV door slammed shut. This isn't over, he muttered before climbing back inside. The vehicle pulled away, its taillights swallowed by traffic. Harper stood trembling, her heart racing unevenly. He's setting me up, she whispered. He's really going to try to destroy me. Nicholas looked down at her, voice low, steady, certain. Not if I get to him first. Exampled. Before Harper could respond, a sudden vibration buzzed in her coat pocket. She pulled out her phone and saw the sender, Brandon, and the message made her blood run cold. We need to talk. Alone. Harper stared at Brandon's message glowing on her screen, the words cutting through her like a cold blade. We need to talk. Alone. It amazed her how even now, after breaking her financially, professionally, and emotionally, he still issued commands as if she belonged to him, as if she were a subordinate, not a woman he had spent years wearing down. She locked her phone without replying. Nicholas watched her carefully, reading the shift in her expression. What did he say? Nothing worth answering. Harper murmured, pulling her coat tighter. He just wants control. That's all he's ever wanted. Nicholas didn't speak right away. His silence wasn't heavy or judgmental. It felt steadying. But the longer Harper stood there, the more the weight of the day pressed down on her chest again. Her breathing thinned, her ribs tightening as if an invisible hand were squeezing them inward. She sat back down on the bench, both hands pressed over her heart. I just need a minute. Nicholas crouched beside her. Slow breaths, he said gently, guiding her through them. In, hold, out. The world blurred at the edges, cars honked, people rushed past. The winter wind stung her eyes. But Nicholas's voice anchored her, each syllable pulling her back from the cliff of panic. When her breathing finally steadied, Nicholas stood and offered his hand. "Let me take you somewhere warm." Harper hesitated, glancing toward the direction Marcus's SUV had gone. What if Brandon sends someone else? Nicholas's gaze hardened. Then they'll have to deal with me. Something in his tone, quiet, unshakable, made her chest loosen just slightly. She rose slowly, letting him lead her through the city. They walked past Bryant Park, the trees wrapped in string lights, past the tall glass facades reflecting the deepening evening sky. She felt small among the glittering towers, swallowed by the very city she once dreamed of conquering. By the time they reached the corner of 45th and Madison, snow had begun to fall soft, lazy flakes drifting between the headlights. Harper's fingers were numb. Her thoughts were scattered. She had nowhere to go. No money, no job, no apartment. Nicholas stopped beside a quiet cafe and held the door open for her. Warmth washed over her instantly, the smell of coffee and baked bread softening the sharp edges inside her. "Sit," he said. "I'll order something." When he returned with 2 hot teas, Harper wrapped her hands around the cup, letting the heat sink into her palms. For a moment, it almost felt like safety. "Harper," Nicholas began slowly, "there's something you need to know about Brandon. About why he's desperate to keep you silent." She looked up, weary but attentive. "He's under investigation," Nicholas said. "Several investors are already raising questions about missing funds." Harper blinked. "Missing funds?" "Millions," Nicholas said. "And if Brandon connected those falsified transfers to your login, he has a scapegoat ready." Her stomach clenched. "He's really willing to let me take the fall." Nicholas met her eyes with a solemn calm. "Yes, and he's running out of time. That's why he wants to talk alone. He wants to intimidate you before the walls close in." Harper's breath trembled. "I can't keep outrunning this." "You won't have to," Nicholas said, "because you're not alone in it anymore." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. She froze. The sender wasn't Brandon this time. It was from an unknown number. A photo. And when Harper opened it, her blood ran cold. It was a picture of her old apartment door with a note taped to it bearing her name. The photo on Harper's screen blurred as her hand trembled. Her old apartment door, bare, dented from years of city living, stood cold in the image. But it wasn't the door that chilled her. It was the note taped to it, a single sheet of white paper with her name written in thick black marker. The letters uneven, jagged, rushed. Her throat tightened. How did someone even get into the building? The lock? The front door? Her voice faded as dread crawled up her spine. Nicholas gently reached across the table. "Let me see." She handed him the phone. His eyes flickered with something sharp focus, calculation, and a quiet anger aimed nowhere near her, but at whoever was hunting her. "Who has your old address?" he asked. "Brandon," Harper whispered. "And the company. And maybe Avery." The name tasted bitter. Nicholas lowered the phone. "We're not going back there. You're not stepping near that building. I still have things there." She murmured. "My clothes, my medical papers, none of that matters more than your safety." Harper looked down at her hands. They were shaking again. She curled her fingers into her palms, trying to steady herself. The cafe's warmth was fading, replaced by the creeping cold of fear. "Someone wants me scared," she said quietly. "Scared people make mistakes. Brandon knows that." "If you want to," Nicholas's jaw tightened. "Brandon is losing control. That makes him unpredictable. But he's not the only person in this city with power." Something in his tone made her look up. Really look. For the first time she noticed the way he carried and the way he stood, the steadiness in his movements, the way others in the cafe glanced at him without knowing why, instinctively aware that he wasn't ordinary. He didn't just move through the world moved around him. "Why are you helping me?" Harper asked, voice barely above a whisper. "You don't owe me anything. You don't even know me." Nicholas hesitated, not with uncertainty, but with restraint, as if the truth he held back carried consequences. "I knew your father," he said finally, "and he saved my company during a moment when no one else would. I never forgot that." Harper blinked. Her chest tightened, not with fear this time, but something close to grief. "My father never told me." End quote. "He wouldn't," Nicholas said. He wasn't the kind of man who took credit for kindness. Harper felt her eyes sting. Memories of her father, his laugh, his warm hands, the way he always fixed things with quiet patience, rushed up like a tide she wasn't ready for. Nicholas softened. He wanted you protected, and I failed to reach you sooner. She shook her head. No, today has been chaos. You couldn't have known. Nicholas leaned forward slightly. I know one thing. You're in danger because Brandon is afraid, and men who are afraid do reckless, stupid things. Harper wrapped her hands tighter around her tea. So, what do I do? I can't go home. I have no job, no money, no family. You have me, Nicholas said calmly. And you're coming with me now. Her breath caught. Where? Somewhere safe. She hesitated. Trust felt like a luxury she could no longer afford. But staying here alone, exposed, felt like a risk she wasn't strong enough to take. She swallowed hard. All right. Nicholas stood and helped her into her coat. As they stepped out into the quiet snowfall, Harper felt, for the first time that day, a small flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. But as they reached the curb, a figure appeared across the street watching them, unmoving, face hidden beneath a hood. Nicholas stiffened. Harper froze. The figure stepped forward, and Harper realized she recognized the way they walked. The figure stepped closer, snow swirling around them like a curtain. Harper took a step back, her breath fogging in the cold air. The gait, the slight lean of the shoulders was painfully familiar. Avery, she whispered, disbelief tightening her throat. The hooded figure pushed it back, and there she was, the mistress who had helped dismantle Harper's life, cheeks flushed from the cold, eyes darting nervously between Harper and Nicholas. Don't freak out, Avery said, lifting her hand slightly. I'm not here to fight you. Nicholas shifted, subtly positioning himself between them. Then why are you following her? Avery exhaled, trembling. This wasn't the same smug, triumphant girl from earlier. Her mascara was smudged, and the confidence she'd worn like expensive perfume had evaporated. I need help, she said, voice cracking. And you're the only one who might listen. Harper stared at her, stunned. Me? After everything you've done? Avery shook her head desperately. You don't understand. Brandon promised he'd take care of me. He promised I'd have a future with him. But tonight, after the investor call, he changed. He said I was a liability. Her voice wavered. He told Marcus to clean up loose ends. I got scared. I ran. Harper felt cold crawl into her bones. Avery, what are you saying? That note on your door? Avery swallowed. That wasn't me. Marcus left it. Brandon wanted you scared. He wants you cornered before tomorrow. Tomorrow? Nicholas pressed. Avery hesitated, then whispered. Brandon's presenting the updated financials to the board. He forged numbers, big ones, and he used Harper's login. If the board panics, they'll hand everything over to the SEC. And guess who the digital trail leads to? Harper clasped the bench behind her for balance. Her heart thudded painfully. Me, she breathed. Avery nodded helplessly. He's setting you up. Completely. Nicholas's expression darkened, the kind of controlled fury that made Avery flinch. How long have you known? A few days, she admitted. He kept saying he had a plan. I thought it meant he was leaving you officially. Her gaze dropped. I didn't know it meant ruining you. Harper's voice trembled. So, why come to me now? Avery wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Because he told me I was next, and I realized something. Brandon doesn't love anyone. He uses people until they break. Harper swallowed the rising ache in her throat. I already knew that. Nicholas placed a steadying hand on Harper's arm. Avery, if you're telling the truth, then we need proof. Something concrete. And well, Avery looked up at him with wide, fearful eyes. I took something. From his laptop, a file he kept hidden. Nicholas's brows lifted. What kind of file? For the first time, Avery looked truly terrified. Something your father left behind. Harper's breath caught. My father? What does he have to do with Brandon? Avery reached into her coat, pulled out a small flash drive, and placed it in Harper's trembling hand. It has everything, she whispered. Emails, agreements, and a document with your father's signature. Nicholas leaned closer, voice low. What kind of document? Avery shook her head. I didn't read all of it, but I know this. Whatever your father left, Brandon wasn't supposed to have it. Harper felt the weight of the flash drive pulse like a heartbeat against her palm. Nicholas's voice was barely above a whisper. Harper, this could change everything. Avery stepped back, glancing nervously over her shoulder. I should go before Marcus finds me. But before she could take another step, headlights swept across the snow-covered street. An SUV, black, familiar. It screeched to a stop. The back door flew open, and Marcus stepped out, eyes locking straight onto Harper. Marcus's boots hit the pavement with heavy, deliberate steps. Snow crunched beneath him as he adjusted the radio piece in his ear, eyes narrowing in on Harper like she was a target he had finally cornered. Avery whimpered, stepping behind Nicholas as if he could shield her from everything. Miss Ellis, Marcus said, voice calm in a way that felt more dangerous than shouting. You need to come with me. No, Harper managed, her voice barely above a breath. I'm not going anywhere with you. Marcus's gaze flicked to Avery. You were instructed not to leave the apartment. You've made things messy. Avery shrank behind Nicholas, shaking. Please, Marcus. He lifted a hand. Not talking to you. Nicholas stepped forward just enough to block both women. The snowflake-laced air around him seemed to shift, tighten. Marcus, if you lay a hand on either of them, I will make sure your employer faces consequences you can't begin to imagine. Marcus's jaw twitched, though he held his posture. Mr. Arden, this is internal business you have no authority over. I have authority over anyone who threatens someone under my protection. Wiseman. Something flickered behind Marcus's eyes, recognition, hesitation, but it wasn't enough to stop him. Mr. Hale insists this matter cannot wait, Marcus pressed. He's willing to handle this privately tonight to avoid legal escalation. Harper shook her head in disbelief. He's framing me. He wants me isolated so he can threaten me without witnesses. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't have to. Nicholas's voice cooled to steel. She's not isolated and she isn't stepping into your vehicle. Between her, a tense silence spread across the street. Snow collected on car roofs, settling on Harper's hair. Avery clung to her coat, shivering. Marcus finally exhaled. You're making this more difficult than it needs to be. No, Nicholas said. I'm making it impossible. Marcus's eyes hardened. You're interfering in an investigation, Mr. Arden. Then call the police, Nicholas replied calmly. Let's see how quickly your story crumbles under real scrutiny, decisively. Marcus hesitated, his certainty cracking for the first time. He looked at Harper the way she trembled but didn't break. He looked at the flash drive in her hand. He looked at Nicholas, a man who didn't bluff. Then he stepped back. This isn't over, Marcus growled. Mr. Hale will not be pleased. Nicholas didn't blink. He rarely is. Marcus returned to the SUV, slammed the door, and the vehicle pulled away, its taillights glowing red through the snow. For a moment the world was quiet again, too quiet. Harper finally released a breath she'd been holding long enough for her ribs to ache. She gripped the flash drive tighter, its sharp edges pressing into her palm. Avery swallowed. He's getting desperate. Brandon knows you have something that can unravel him. She lowered her voice. And that terrifies him. Nicholas looked at Harper, steady and certain. We need to leave now before he sends someone else. Dax, 24. Harper nodded, weakly, adrenaline draining from her limbs. Where are we going? To the only place Brandon can't reach you, Nicholas said. My office. They began walking toward the main avenue, snow floating around them like falling ash. Harper felt exposed, like eyes were watching them from every dark window. As they approached the corner, a street light flickered overhead. Nicholas placed a reassuring hand on her back. You're safe with me, he said softly. But before Harper could respond, her phone buzzed again, not with a text this time, a video call. The name flashing across the screen made her blood turn to ice. Brandon was calling her live, right now. The video call request flashed like a warning siren in Harper's hand. Brandon's name, bold and sharp, pulsed across the screen. For a moment, the world around her blurred. The falling snow, the rumbling traffic, even Nicholas's steady presence beside her. She didn't answer, couldn't. Her thumb hovered over the decline button, but her body refused to move. Fear rooted her in place, thick and suffocating. Nicholas noticed instantly. Harper, he said gently. You don't have to answer him. Her breath hitched. If I don't, He'll come looking. Nicholas's tone darkened. He already is. The call stopped. Harper exhaled shakily, only for the screen to light up again, vibrating violently in her hand. Brandon was calling once more, this time with an attached message. "Pick up, or I come find you." Her pulse spiked. The pressure in her chest tightened like a fist. She stumbled back a step, clutching her sternum as her breath fractured into short, uneven bursts. "Harper," Nicholas said, alarmed. He steadied her shoulders. "Slow down." Deep breaths. But her lungs weren't listening. Panic, sharp and electric, shot through her veins. Her vision turned grainy, like snow static on an old TV screen. Avery backed up, wide-eyed. "Oh God, is she Nicholas? Help her." "I'm trying," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "Harper, look at me. In through your nose." "I can't," she gasped, tears stinging her eyes. "I can't breathe." Her knees buckled. Nicholas caught her before she hit the ground, lowering her gently onto a nearby step. The cold cement seeped through her coat. Her fingers tingled. Her ears rang. "Stay with me," Nicholas urged. "You're okay. I've got you." But Harper wasn't okay. The entire day, the divorce, the bank account, the firing, the threats, the photo on her door crashed into her all at once. Her heart condition, usually manageable, now flared violently under the weight of fear. Brandon's name buzzed across her screen again. A fresh wave of panic ripped through her chest. "I'm going to pass out," she whispered. Nicholas cupped her face gently, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You are safe. I'm right here. You're not alone." His voice cut through the chaos like a lifeline. Slowly, painfully, her breathing steadied, though each inhale still burned. Her trembling eased just enough for her vision to refocus. When she finally managed to lift her head, her cheeks were damp with cold and tears. Nicholas's hands remained firm and grounding on her shoulders. "I'm sorry," she whispered, embarrassed. "I didn't mean to. Don't apologize," he said softly. "Anyone would break under what he's done to you." Harper closed her eyes, exhausted. "He wants me scared, and it's working." Avery stepped closer, hugging her coat tight. "Brandon thinks fear makes people obedient. It's how he keeps control. But today, you didn't fold. That scares him more than anything." Harper let out a shaky breath. "I don't feel brave." Nicholas helped her to her feet. "Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's moving anyway. Thanks for watching." Harper wiped her face, the cold air numbing her skin. "I just want this to stop." "It will," Nicholas promised. "But first, we get you somewhere safe." They began walking, Harper leaning slightly on him for support. Avery followed behind, nervously checking over her shoulder. The street ahead was quiet, lined with shuttered shops and glowing street lamps. For the first time in hours, Harper felt like she might breathe again. Then, a sound split the silence. A sharp crack. Harper turned. Her phone had fallen from her pocket, cracked screen glowing in the snow. But that wasn't the part that made her blood run cold. A notification appeared across the fractured glass. A calendar alert. One she hadn't set. Board meeting final presentation. Harper Ellis accountability review. Scheduled for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., and Brandon had added her name as the primary subject. Snow coated the sidewalks as they hurried through the dimly lit street, each breath leaving faint clouds in the cold air. Harper clutched her cracked phone, staring at the board meeting alert as if it might dissolve under her gaze. It didn't. The words stayed there, sharp and merciless, like a countdown. Accountability review. She could already imagine the room, the long mahogany table, the men and women in tailored suits, the way they'd look at her like she was the problem, not the scapegoat. Brandon would stand at the head of the table, confident, rehearsed, ready to sacrifice her career and reputation to save his own. "Why would he put my name there?" Harper whispered. Avery hesitated before answering. "Because it makes you look guilty before he even presents. He's building a narrative. Live edition, as a border." Nicholas placed a hand at the small of Harper's back, guiding her toward the entrance of a tall office tower shining with muted gold light. Arden Capital. Sleek, imposing, safe. "Inside," Nicholas said. "Both of you." A security guard greeted him immediately. "Mr. Arden, conference room is ready." Then his gaze flickered to Harper, softening. "Ma'am." Harper had never been acknowledged this respectfully in an office building. not once. The feeling was foreign, but grounding. They took an elevator up to the 47th floor. When the doors opened, Harper found herself in a modern, glass-walled conference room overlooking Manhattan. The skyline glittered like scattered diamonds. Nicholas motioned for her and Avery to sit. He removed his coat, rolled up his sleeves, and set down a secure laptop. His entire demeanor shifted. No longer the quietly protective man from the cafe, but a commanding executive whose presence filled the room. "Harper," he said, "we're going to figure out exactly what Brandon did to your accounts." Her fingers trembled slightly as she placed the flash drive Avery had given her on the table. The small, ordinary object suddenly felt like a grenade. Avery wrapped her arms around herself. "You should know, Brandon keeps a secondary server. He hides files there, things he doesn't want the company to see." Nicholas's expression hardened. "Then let's expose everything." He plugged in the flash drive. Lines of data flickered to life. Emails, spreadsheets, scanned documents. Then something opened automatically, a folder labeled Ellis. Harper inhaled sharply. Nicholas clicked the first document, an old contract, a signature, her father's. Harper leaned in, her pulse pounding. "What is this?" Nicholas read silently for a moment. Then he looked at her with an expression she couldn't decipher: shock, anger, regret. "Your father had an equity agreement with Brandon's previous company, one that guaranteed you ownership of certain assets if anything happened to him." Harper blinked. "I don't understand. How does this tie to Brandon now?" Avery swallowed. "Brandon found the contract years ago. He used parts of it, altered others, and hid the real one." Nicholas's jaw clenched. "Meaning legally, Harper, you may own a significant portion of Brandon's company." The room seemed to tilt. "I own what? Not everything, but enough. Enough to destroy Brandon. Enough to save herself." Nicholas continued. "Brandon hid this because if the board ever saw it, they would bypass him completely. He's been fighting to keep this buried." Harper pressed a shaking hand to her mouth. Her father, her quiet, humble father, had left her protection she didn't even know existed. Nicholas closed the folder gently. "Harper, this is leverage," Avery whispered. "This is why he's spiraling, why he wants you discredited. If you walk into that meeting tomorrow with this, he loses everything." Harper felt energy surge through her fear. Yes, but also something else. Strength. But before she could speak, the conference room door banged. Nicholas's assistant stood there, pale. "Sir, you need to see this." She handed him her tablet. Nicholas's eyes darkened as he read the headline glowing across the screen. "Brandon Hale seen entering private residence with unknown woman. Police called to the scene minutes later." Harper's stomach twisted as Nicholas read the headline again, slower this time, as if trying to make sense of it. "Brandon Hale seen entering private residence with unknown woman. Police called to the scene minutes later." Avery pressed a hand to her mouth. "Unknown woman? That's not me. I swear. I never." Nicholas shook his head. "This isn't about you anymore. This is Brandon unraveling." Harper forced herself to breathe, rubbing her palms together for warmth. "Why would the police be called?" Nicholas scrolled further. Neighbors reported shouting. Someone threw something out a window. The woman fled. Brandon refused to answer questions. Avery whispered, "That sounds like him. When he loses control, he lashes out." Harper swallowed hard. A knot formed deep in her chest. "He's spiraling because he knows he doesn't have long." "Thanks for watching." Nicholas set the tablet down. "Which means tomorrow's board meeting is critical. He's going to push every lie he has left." Harper steadied herself against the table. "Then so will I." Nicholas's eyes softened. There was respect in them, something he rarely showed. "You're stronger than he ever believed." Before Harper could respond, Nicholas's assistant cleared her throat softly. "There's one more thing." End quote. She reached into a folder and pulled out a thick, cream-colored envelope with embossed gold edges. Elegant, expensive, heavy. She handed it to Harper. "This arrived while you were downstairs." Harper stared at it. "For me?" "Yes," the assistant said. "Hand delivered." Harper slid a finger under the seal and opened it. Inside was an invitation. The lettering was ornate, almost regal. The Winter Solstice Investors Gala, hosted at the Plaza Hotel. Attendance strictly by invitation only. Harper blinked. She had attended this gala once years ago with Brandon. It was the kind of event where billionaires mingled under crystal chandeliers and investment deals were whispered over champagne. It was also the kind of place where people like her, now stripped of status and stability, didn't belong. On the bottom corner, written in elegant ink, Miss Harper Ellis. Your presence is formally requested. Avery leaned closer. But how? They don't send invitations to employees, let alone ex-wives. Nicholas took the card from Harper and examined it. This signature, this belongs to Evelyn Crane. Harper frowned. Who is she? One of the most influential investors in the city, Nicholas explained. Old money, very selective. She doesn't invite people out of courtesy. Avery's brows shot up. Then why invite Harper? Nicholas looked at Harper with a contemplative expression. Because someone told her to. Harper shook her head quickly. Not me. I didn't ask for this. No, Nicholas said. But someone wants you there. Harper's grip tightened on the invitation. Brandon? Nicholas didn't answer immediately. Possibly, but Evelyn Crane would never take orders from him. Someone with higher influence requested this. Avery looked between them, anxious. Is that good or bad? Nicholas's gaze slowly returned to Harper, potentially both. Harper felt her pulse quicken. Why would anyone want me at a room full of investors right before Brandon tries to destroy me in front of his board? Nicholas's expression darkened. Because the gala is where rumors start, where reputations shift, where alliances form. Someone wants you visible. Harper's throat tightened. It felt like stepping onto a stage she wasn't prepared for. I don't know if I can face all those people. You won't be alone, Nicholas said. If you go, I go with you. Avery nodded quickly. And I'll stay close. Just maybe not too close. People know me. For the first time that night, Harper let herself imagine it. The lights, the music, the eyes turning toward her not in pity, but in surprise, maybe even respect. She ran her thumb along the edges of the invitation. Nicholas stepped forward. Harper, this gala could change everything. It could shift the entire balance before the board meeting. Harper breathed out slowly. Then I'll go. Nicholas nodded, a quiet approval in his eyes. But before Harper could say anything else, her phone buzzed with a new notification. A message from an unknown number, just 4 words. And when she read them, every muscle in her body froze. See you at midnight. Harper's stomach twisted as Nicholas read the headline again, slower this time, as if trying to make sense of it. Brandon Hale seen entering private residence with unknown woman. Police called to the scene minutes later. Avery pressed a hand to her mouth. Unknown woman? That's not me, I swear. I never, Nicholas shook his head. This isn't about you anymore. This is Brandon unraveling. Harper forced herself to breathe, rubbing her palms together for warmth. Why would the police be called? Nicholas scrolled further. Neighbors reported shouting. Someone threw something out a window. The woman fled. Brandon refused to answer questions. Avery whispered, That sounds like him. When he loses control, he lashes out. Harper swallowed hard. A knot formed deep in her chest. He's spiraling because he knows he doesn't have long. Nicholas set the tablet down. Which means tomorrow's board meeting is critical. He's going to push every lie he has left. Harper steadied herself against the table. Then so will I. Important. Nicholas's eyes softened. There was respect in them. Something he rarely showed. You're stronger than he ever believed. Before Harper could respond, Nicholas's assistant cleared her throat softly. There's one more thing. She reached into a folder and pulled out a thick, cream-colored envelope with embossed gold edges. Elegant, expensive, heavy. She handed it to Harper. This arrived while you were downstairs. Harper stared at it. For me? Yes, the assistant said. Hand delivered. Thanks for watching. Harper slid a finger under the seal and opened it. Inside was an invitation. The lettering was ornate, almost regal. The Winter Solstice Investors Gala, hosted at the Plaza Hotel. Attendance strictly by invitation only. Harper blinked. She had attended this gala once years ago with Brandon. It was the kind of event where billionaires mingled under crystal chandeliers and investment deals were whispered over champagne. It was also the kind of place where people like her, now stripped of status and stability, didn't belong. On the bottom corner, written in elegant ink, Miss Harper Ellis, your presence is formally requested. Avery leaned closer. But how? They don't send invitations to employees, let alone ex-wives. Nicholas took the card from Harper and examined it. This signature, this belongs to Evelyn Crane. Harper frowned. Who is she? One of the most influential investors in the city, Nicholas explained. Old money. Very selective. She doesn't invite people out of courtesy. Avery's brows shot up. Then why invite Harper? Nicholas looked at Harper with a contemplative expression. Because someone told her to. Harper shook her head quickly. Not me. I didn't ask for this. No, Nicholas said, but someone wants you there. Harper's grip tightened on the invitation. Brandon? Nicholas didn't answer immediately. Possibly. But Evelyn Crane would never take orders from him. Someone with higher influence requested this. Avery looked between them, anxious. Is that good or bad? Nicholas's gaze slowly returned to Harper. Potentially both. Harper felt her pulse quicken. Why would anyone want me at a room full of investors right before Brandon tries to destroy me in front of his board? Nicholas's expression darkened. Because the gala is where rumors start, where reputations shift, where alliances form. Someone wants you visible. Harper's throat tightened. It felt like stepping onto a stage she wasn't prepared for. I don't know if I can face all those people. You won't be alone, Nicholas said. If you go, I go with you. Avery nodded quickly. And I'll stay close, just maybe not too close. People know me. It's why I'll do. For the first time that night, Harper let herself imagine it. The lights, the music, the eyes turning toward her not in pity, but in surprise. Maybe even respect. She ran her thumb along the edges of the invitation. Nicholas stepped forward. Harper, this gala could change everything. It could shift the entire balance before the board meeting. Harper breathed out slowly. Then I'll go. Nicholas nodded, a quiet approval in his eyes. But before Harper could say anything else, her phone buzzed with a new notification. A message from an unknown number. Just 4 words. And when she read them, every muscle in her body froze. See you at midnight. The 4 words on Harper's screen, see you at midnight, followed her all the way out of the building, through the elevator ride, and into the back seat of Nicholas's waiting car. They sat between her and Avery like a silent threat. Who sent that? Avery whispered. I don't know, Harper murmured. It's not Brandon's number. Nicholas took the phone gently from her hands, studying the message. This isn't random. Someone wants to unsettle you before tomorrow. Well, Harper said weakly, it's working. The car pulled into the underground garage of Arden Capital's private residence tower. Nicholas guided her through a secure entrance and into a quiet, warmly lit suite overlooking the frozen Manhattan skyline. It felt impossibly far from everything she had endured that day. Avery lingered in the doorway. You really think she'll be safe here? She'll be safer here than anywhere else, Nicholas said. And you should stay, too. Avery shook her head. No. If Brandon finds out I helped, he'll... She stopped herself. I need to disappear for a while. Harper stepped forward. Avery, thank you, really. Avery swallowed hard. I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it for me. I don't want to become like him. She turned, pulling up her hood. Good luck tomorrow. When she left, the silence settled like snow around Harper. She moved toward the window, hands trembling slightly as she looked at the glittering horizon. She could see the Plaza Hotel from here, the very place she'd walk into tomorrow night. Nicholas watched her quietly before speaking. You're overwhelmed. That's normal. Normal? Harper laughed softly, pressing a palm against the glass. I lost my marriage, my job, my home in less than 24 hours. Nicholas stepped closer. You didn't lose anything worth keeping. She blinked, caught off guard. I know you don't see it yet, Nicholas continued. But tomorrow you'll walk into that gala with the truth on your side. And Brandon, he'll walk in with lies. Lies always weigh more. Harper forced a breath. What if I'm not good enough? What if I fall apart in front of those people? You won't, Nicholas said without hesitation, because you'll have the one thing Brandon never gave you, support. He motioned to a garment rack she hadn't noticed before. Elegant gowns, understated yet powerful, hung there in soft lighting. Harper stared. What is all this? A stylist owes me a favor, Nicholas said simply. You need something that makes you feel like the woman you're becoming, not the woman Brandon tried to break. Harper touched the fabric of a deep sapphire gown. It shimmered subtly under the lights, rich and dignified, completely opposite of the woman she felt like now. I can't accept this, she whispered. You can, Nicholas said softly. And you will. Harper looked up, her eyes meeting his. There was no judgment there, only steadfast calm. It felt like someone had turned on a light in a dark room she'd been trapped in for years. She selected a gown simple, elegant with a neckline that drew attention without begging for it. A dress that said, "I refuse to disappear." In the reflection of the suite's mirror, she barely recognized the woman she was becoming. Nicholas approached and placed something delicate in her hand. A thin silver bracelet. "It belonged to your father," he said. "He left it in the file. I think he wanted you to have it for a moment like this." Her breath caught. She fastened it around her wrist, feeling a warmth spread through her chest that wasn't fear for once. "This doesn't feel real," she whispered. "It's real," Nicholas replied, "and it's only the beginning." Before Harper could respond, her phone buzzed again. A new message. Same unknown number. This time, it wasn't words. It was a photo. A live photo. And when it opened, Harper sucked in a breath. It was taken from inside the Plaza Hotel, showing her name written on a reserved place card at an empty table. Alone, the photo on Harper's phone haunted her long after the screen dimmed. Her name, handwritten in elegant black ink, sat on a white place card at an empty round table inside the Plaza Hotel. No other names, no glasses, no silverware, just her isolated, singled out. A message without words. Nicholas studied the picture with a grave calm. "Someone wants you visible the moment you walk in. Or vulnerable," Harper murmured. She didn't know which option terrified her more. But the next morning came faster than she expected, and by late afternoon the city had transformed snow melting into glossy puddles, the wind sharp with winter's bite. Harper stood inside Nicholas's private hangar at the Westchester airstrip, feeling impossibly out of place among polished metal and runway lights. She wore the sapphire gown he'd chosen. Simple, graceful, powerful. A dress she never would have picked for herself, but somehow made her feel less like the woman Brandon broke and more like the woman she was meant to become. Nicholas approached with a coat draped over his arm. "You look like someone who could run a boardroom." Harper gave a shaky smile. "I feel like someone playing dress-up. Then let tonight prove you wrong." His confidence in her felt like a warm hand on her back, urging her forward. The Arden jet waited nearby, sleek white exterior, engines humming like a quiet heartbeat. She had only seen planes like this in magazines or movies. Walking toward it felt surreal, almost dreamlike. But Nicholas walked beside her, unhurried, calm, as if this were the most natural place for them to be. A flight attendant greeted them with a polite smile. "Miss Ellis, Mr. Arden, we're ready for departure." Harper blinked. "You used my name?" "Of course," the attendant replied. "You're our primary passenger." Primary. The word struck something deep. As they boarded, Harper's breath caught. The interior was warm, soft cream leather with gold accents that shimmered under dim cabin lights. A small table held 2 glasses and a carefully arranged platter of fruit and pastries. "This is unreal," Harper whispered. Nicholas watched her take it all in. "This is just transportation. What comes next matters more." She settled into her seat, clutching the armrests as the jet prepared for takeoff. Her heart pounded not from fear, but anticipation. For the first time in days, she wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was moving towards something. The engines roared softly as they ascended above the clouds, Manhattan glowing like a constellation beneath them. Harper stared out the window, the city spreading in every direction, a reminder of the world she thought she'd lost, but was learning to reclaim. Nicholas leaned slightly toward her. "Harper, when you walk into that gala tonight, people will talk. They'll stare and Brandon will panic because he expects you broken, not reborn." She swallowed hard. "What if I freeze? What if You won't," he said simply. "Because you're not the victim anymore. Tonight, you set the tone." She let the words settle inside her, strengthening her spine. Halfway through the flight, Harper's phone buzzed. She hesitated before checking it. Another message. Same unknown number. This time, midnight. "Don't be late." Her chest tightened. "Whoever this is, they're already at the gala." Nicholas took the phone. "Let them wait. You'll arrive when you choose." But Harper sensed something deeper. This midnight meeting wasn't random. Whoever wanted her there had an agenda, and it wasn't small. The jet began its descent toward Manhattan. City lights spread beneath them, brilliant and unforgiving. Harper's pulse quickened. What if tonight decides everything? Nicholas held her gaze, steady as steel. "It will, and a fashion." The wheels touched the runway with a soft jolt. The jet taxied toward a private entrance reserved for high-profile guests. A black car was already waiting. Harper exhaled shakily. Tonight was the beginning. But as the jet door opened and the cold night air swept in, a voice called from the bottom of the stairs. "Miss Ellis, there's been a change in the gala seating arrangement. You've been moved to the host's table." Daxam. Harper froze at the bottom of the jet stairs, her fingers tightening around the railing. "The host's table?" she repeated, hardly recognizing her own voice. The event coordinator nodded, his breath fogging in the cold night. "Yes, ma'am. Miss Crane personally requested the change." Evelyn Crane, one of the wealthiest, most powerful investors in the country. A woman who rarely spoke in public and even more rarely endorsed anyone. Harper's heart fluttered. "But she doesn't even know me, Desta." Nicholas stepped beside her, voice low but steady. "She does now." Her pulse thudded. The sapphire gown suddenly felt heavier, as if woven with expectations she wasn't prepared to carry. The coordinator motioned toward the waiting car. "The hotel is expecting your arrival. We should go." Nicholas helped Harper into the sleek black sedan. The doors shut with a soft, luxurious click, sealing the outside world away. The city lights slid across the windows as they drove, reflecting off her bracelet, her father's bracelet. She touched it lightly, grounding herself. "You'll be magnificent," Nicholas said. "I don't feel magnificent," Harper whispered. "I feel like a fraud." Nicholas turned toward her. "Frauds lie about who they are. You've spent years hiding how strong you are." She didn't answer, couldn't. The truth in his words stung and soothed at the same time. The car pulled up to the Plaza Hotel, glowing under golden lights like a palace carved out of winter. Guests in shimmering dresses and tailored suits filled the grand entrance, their laughter echoing beneath the archways. The moment Harper stepped out, the air shifted, heads turned, conversations faltered. People stared not at Nicholas, not at the car, but at her. The woman Brandon left, but standing taller, steadier, stronger than she'd ever been. She walked forward, guided by a hotel attendant, holding an umbrella above her. Snowflakes swirled around her ankles like silver dust. Her heels clicked against the marble steps, each step a statement. Whispers rose around them. "Is that Harper Ellis? Didn't Brandon divorce her yesterday? Why is she with Nicholas Arden? Is she on the guest list? She looks incredible." Harper swallowed hard but didn't break stride. Inside, the ballroom glowed with crystal chandeliers and polished gold accents. A string quartet played softly. Waiters carried trays of champagne past towering ice sculptures and ornate floral arrangements. The world here felt unreal, untouched by the chaos she'd survived. The coordinator led her toward the front of the room, straight to the host's table. Harper's breath caught when she saw her place card again, now positioned among names she recognized from magazines, CEOs, hedge fund directors, legacy family heirs, and at the center sat Evelyn Crane. Silver hair swept elegantly back, posture regal, eyes sharp as cut glass. The kind of woman who could invest in or dismantle entire companies with a single decision. As Harper approached, Evelyn rose. "Miss Ellis," she said, voice calm, deliberate, unmistakably authoritative. "I've been waiting a long time to meet you." Harper nearly stumbled. "Me? Why?" Evelyn offered a faint smile. "Because your father once saved something very important to me. And tonight, I intend to return the favor." Harper's lips parted, stunned. "You knew my father?" "I knew him well enough to know he would be proud of you for being here." Emotion pricked behind Harper's eyes. She blinked it away. Nicholas stepped forward politely. "Evelyn, Nicholas." She greeted with a nod. "You brought her safely. Good." Before Harper could process those words, a hush suddenly rippled through the ballroom. Guests turned. Camera flashes exploded. A figure entered through the main doors. Harper's stomach dropped as she recognized the silhouette instantly. Brandon. And he wasn't alone. A woman clung to his arm, smiling, wearing Harper's old diamond necklace. Brandon stepped into the ballroom like he owned it, shoulders squared, chin high, the confident smirk of a man who believed the world still bent around him. The woman on his arm clung tightly, smiling with forced glamour. But Harper's breath caught at the glitter at the woman's throat. Her necklace. The one Brandon gave her on their 3rd anniversary. The one she'd left behind in the apartment she was forced to flee. A cold wave washed through her. Evelyn Crane noticed the shift in Harper's expression. "Is that something of yours?" Harper forced her voice steady. "It was." Nicholas's jaw tightened. "He's escalating. He wants to provoke you." Brandon spotted them across the ballroom. His eyes widened for half a second. Shock, recognition, rage, before he masked it with a polished smile. He whispered something to the woman beside him, then marched toward Harper with predatory purpose. The crowd parted for him like water. "Harper," Brandon said, voice dripping with false warmth. "I didn't expect to see you here." The woman on his arm looked Harper up and down. She was young, maybe 22, with a nervous stiffness in her posture. Not Avery. Someone even newer. "I should have known you'd invite yourself," Brandon continued, always desperate to stay relevant. Evelyn Crane took a small step forward, posture regal. "I invited her." Brandon's mask cracked. "You invited her?" "Yes," Evelyn said calmly. "Miss Ellis is my guest. Is there a problem?" Brandon hesitated. The eyes of investors, executives, and media drifted toward him like moths to flame. He forced a smile. "Of course not. Just surprising." Nicholas folded his arms, unyielding. "You should leave, Brandon." Brandon ignored him and leaned in toward Harper. "Careful, sweetheart. You're making a spectacle of yourself." Harper lifted her chin. "I think I've earned the right to exist in a room without asking your permission." Eviction 21. A murmur rippled through nearby tables. Brandon's eyes narrowed. "Is that so?" He turned to his date. "Maya, this is my ex-wife. She's still adjusting to the whole divorce thing." Maya swallowed hard. "Hi," she said quietly. Harper's voice softened despite herself. "You don't have to be afraid of him." Brandon stiffened. "Don't talk to her." But Maya stepped forward hesitantly, eyes glossy. Can I ask something?" She looked at Harper, not Brandon. "Did he ever threaten you if you disagreed with him?" Brandon's face blanched. "Maya," Harper answered honestly. "Yes." Maya's shoulders sagged with relief and dread at the same time. "I thought it was just me." Brandon grabbed her arm. "We're leaving." Nicholas stepped in, voice like steel. "Let go of her." Brandon gripped tighter. "Stay out of." Maya yanked her arm free, surprising all of them. "No, I'm done." The room grew eerily quiet. Maya's voice trembled as she spoke loudly, loud enough for the surrounding guests to hear. "You said she was crazy, that she fabricated everything, that she ruined your life." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I believed you. I let you isolate me the same way you did her." Brandon paled, his veneer shattering. "Maya," he warned. But she turned to Harper with sincere regret. "I'm sorry. I didn't know who he really was." Harper nodded gently. "It's not your fault." Maya wiped her face. "I saw things tonight, heard things. I can't stay with him. And I think you should know something," Brandon's been saying. She stopped abruptly. Her gaze shifted over Harper's shoulder. She froze. Harper turned slowly, and her pulse slammed hard against her ribs. Standing at the ballroom entrance, framed by the golden light, was a figure she never expected to see tonight. A figure carrying a police badge and looking directly at Harper. Harper's breath stalled as the officer stepped fully into the ballroom, badge glinting under the chandelier. Guests turned, whispers rising like a low tide. Even the quartet faltered before regaining their tempo. But the officer wasn't looking at Brandon. He was looking at her. "Miss Harper Ellis?" he called out, his voice cutting clean through the murmurs. Harper's spine stiffened. Nicholas immediately placed a steadying hand at her waist. Evelyn Crane's gaze sharpened with protective suspicion. Brandon's eyes widened, then narrowed with something Harper recognized far too well: satisfaction. He stepped forward with false concern. "Officer, is there a problem?" "She's been emotional tonight. I'm happy to explain anything." The officer raised a hand, shutting Brandon up instantly. "I wasn't speaking to you." Nicholas stepped forward, shielding Harper. "What is this about?" The officer scanned the group, his expression unreadable. "There was a report filed earlier today." Brandon smirked. "Yes, I filed." "I didn't say it came from you." The officer interrupted coldly. A ripple cut through the crowd. Harper swallowed hard. "What report?" The officer reached inside his coat, and Harper's pulse hammered. But instead of officer papers, he withdrew a small sealed envelope. "This is for you," he said quietly. "From an anonymous sender." They requested it be delivered here, to you, at this exact moment. Harper blinked. Anonymous? Yes, ma'am, and they insisted it was urgent. Nicholas accepted the envelope on her behalf. Thank you, officer, we'll handle it. The officer nodded respectfully and stepped back, dissolving into the edges of the crowd. Brandon's facade cracked. What is that? Give it to me. Nicholas raised an eyebrow. Why? Because it concerns my ex-wife, Brandon snapped. No, Evelyn Crane said icily. It concerns my guest. Brandon paled but pressed on. What's in the envelope, Harper? Another lie? Another attempt to drag my name? Harper finally found her voice. You don't get to touch anything addressed to me. Nicholas slit the envelope open and pulled out a single folded sheet. He unfolded it slowly. His jaw tightened. What does it say? Harper asked, her voice barely audible. Nicholas hesitated just a fraction of a second, but enough to send a bolt of fear down her spine. Finally, he handed the letter to Harper. Her eyes scanned the page. Each word hit like a strike to the chest. Harper, you don't know me, but you knew my father. He trusted yours with something important, something Brandon is desperate to bury. Meet me at midnight. I'll give you the truth he's stolen. A friend of Thomas Ellis. Harper's heart clenched. Thomas Ellis. Her father? A friend of his? Alive? Watching? Reaching out now? Brandon lunged forward. Give me that letter. Nicholas blocked him with a single arm. Touch her again, Brandon, and you won't walk out of here. Brandon's face twisted. You don't know what she's capable of. You don't know. No, Harper said, lifting her chin. They don't know what you are capable of. Gasps rose from the surrounding tables. Brandon's fury flared. You think this little stunt will save you? The board meeting is at 9. My report is airtight. You're going down. Not if the midnight meeting reveals what you stole, Harper shot back. His expression darkened, pure panic flashing beneath the rage. So, he did know something. Nicholas leaned in, voice low. Dangerous. What are you afraid she'll find, Brandon? Brandon didn't answer, but his eyes did. They burned with terror. Before anyone could speak again, the lights above flickered once, twice before dimming dramatically, plunging the ballroom into soft shadows. A murmur spread. The string quartet stopped, and then someone screamed. Harper turned toward the sound, just as a waiter collapsed at her feet, a small metallic object rolling from his hand straight toward her. The ballroom erupted into chaos the moment the waiter hit the floor. Chairs scraped, glasses shattered, guests stumbled back in panic. But Harper didn't move. She stood frozen, staring at the small metallic object that had rolled to her feet, a flash drive, silver, unlabeled, gleaming beneath the chandeliers. Nicholas reacted first. He scooped it up swiftly before anyone else could. Everyone stay calm, he instructed, helping the unconscious waiter onto his side. Call medical. Evelyn Crane signaled discreetly to hotel security. Clear the area around Miss Ellis, she ordered. Now. But security formed a protective arc around them within seconds. Harper's pulse hammered. What happened to him? A nearby guest, shaking, whispered. He just collapsed, like he fainted. Another murmured. Or someone pushed him. Nicholas checked the waiter's pulse. He's alive, breathing. Harper felt her knees weaken in relief, but Brandon stepped forward, eyes narrowed. You think this is a coincidence? He hissed. Every disaster in this room leads straight back to you. End quote. Back away, Brandon, Nicholas warned. But Brandon wasn't listening. He jabbed a finger at the silver flash drive now in Nicholas's hand. What is that? Another piece of fabricated evidence? Another stunt? Who paid that waiter too? Enough, Evelyn said sharply. Brandon ignored her too. You're trying to sabotage my presentation tomorrow. You've been collecting false data, manipulating files, harassing my team. Harper snapped. I lost everything because of you. My job, my home, my safety. I don't have the energy to fabricate a fantasy world, Brandon. That's your specialty. A ripple of whispers spread. Nicholas pocketed the flash drive. We need to leave. Now. But as he guided Harper toward the exit, the waiter suddenly stirred, groaning. Everyone paused. His hand lifted weakly, pointing at Harper. Wait, he whispered, voice strained. This is for you. Harper crouched beside him, trembling. For me? He nodded, eyes fluttering. Man in a black coat gave it to me. Said, get this to Harper Ellis. Said it was important before midnight. Midnight. The same message she'd been receiving over and over. Did he say his name? Harper pressed. The waiter shook his head. Just said, tell her to trust the files. His eyes closed again as paramedics arrived. They took over quickly, lifting him onto a stretcher. Harper rose slowly, turning to Nicholas. The files, the note, the flash drive Avery gave me, the anonymous letter. All pointing to something my father left behind. Nicholas nodded grimly. Someone is trying to make sure you see the truth before the board meeting, and someone else, Harper said, looking straight at Brandon, is trying just as hard to stop me. Brandon's face contorted. You don't know what you're dealing with, Harper. But Harper stepped closer, her fear burning away. Then enlighten me. Brandon opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time he looked trapped. Evelyn Crane stepped between them with the authoritative calm of a judge about to deliver a sentence. Harper, Nicholas, take the flash drive to my private suite upstairs. We'll examine it there. Harper nodded, but as they moved toward the exit, Brandon lunged. You're not going anywhere with my company's data, he barked, grabbing Harper's arm. Nicholas shoved him off with controlled force. Security surged forward instantly. Brandon shouted, She's stealing confidential files. Arrest her. On what grounds? Evelyn Crane demanded. She hasn't touched a single asset of yours. Brandon's eyes burned with desperation. She's ruining me. No, Nicholas said. You ruined yourself. Security restrained Brandon as he fought against their grip. Harper turned away, shaken but resolute, following Nicholas toward the back elevator. She thought the worst of the night was over. She was wrong because when the elevator doors slid open, revealing the private suite floor, someone was already waiting for them, holding her father's old pocket watch in their hand. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing the private suite hallway, quiet, carpeted, dimly lit by gold sconces. But Harper barely took a step before she froze. A man stood directly in the center of the corridor. Tall, black coat, silver hair at the temples. In his hand glinted something small, familiar, painfully sentimental. Her father's pocket watch. Harper's breath hitched. Where did you get that? The man lifted the watch gently as if handling something sacred. Thomas gave it to me. Said I might need it one day. Tonight is that day. Nicholas stepped forward, protective but controlled. Identify yourself. The man didn't flinch. My name is Samuel Reed. He paused. I was Thomas Ellis's partner, and the last person he trusted before he died. A heat shot through Harper's chest. Grief, disbelief, hope, tangled into one painful knot. My father never mentioned you. Samuel nodded. He wouldn't. He was trying to shield you from people like Brandon, from forces bigger than Hale's ego. He motioned to the pocket watch. This isn't just a keepsake. It contains a microdrive. Thomas hid the original SEC reports inside, files Brandon stole and buried. Harper blinked rapidly. You mean Brandon's been hiding federal violations? Yes, Samuel said quietly. Your father discovered Brandon funneling investor funds into shadow accounts during his early startup days. Thomas planned to expose him, but before he could, he died. Harper finished, voice cracking. Samuel stepped closer, his expression heavy with sorrow. Thomas's death wasn't suspicious, but Brandon used the timing. He erased everything tying him to the fraud except this watch, which he never found. Nicholas exhaled sharply. So, the flash drive from the waiter contains a partial copy? Samuel confirmed. But this, he held the pocket watch up to the light. This contains the full truth. Harper stared at it, her heart pounding. Why now? Why bring it to me now? Because Brandon is about to convince the board you're responsible for the missing funds, Samuel said. If he wins tomorrow, he'll go public with a new valuation. Once that happens, he'll be untouchable, and the truth will never see daylight, Nicholas added. Samuel nodded. You're the only one who can expose him before the IPO hits. Harper pressed a hand to her chest. I don't know if I'm strong enough for a fight this big. Samuel's gaze softened. Your father believed you were, and so do I. Harper looked to Nicholas, who gave an approving nod. You're not alone in this. If you come instead to screed her. Before she could respond, footsteps thundered down the stairwell at the far end of the hall. A voice shouted, frantic and furious. Stop them. Don't let her open that door. Brandon. Security guards scrambled behind him trying to hold him back, but he shoved them off violently. He charged toward Harper. "Give me that watch," Brandon roared. "You don't know what you're doing." Samuel stepped between Harper and Brandon with surprising speed for his age. "You lost the right to this information years ago." Brandon's face twisted, nearly unrecognizable. "You think you can destroy me? You think she can? She's nothing." Harper's voice cut through the hallway with newfound steel. "I'm not nothing." "Not anymore." Brandon lunged. Nicholas intercepted, pinning him against the wall in one swift, controlled movement. Evelyn Crane suddenly appeared at the elevator, flanked by 2 plaza security officers. "Mr. Hale, your behavior tonight borders on criminal," Brandon thrashed. "She doesn't understand. If those files get out, they will," Harper said, stepping forward. "Tomorrow morning in front of your entire board." Brandon's eyes widened with pure, unfiltered fear. "You'll destroy everything," he shouted. "Not me," Harper said. "The truth will." Evelyn motioned to security. "Remove him." As they dragged Brandon away, screaming threats, Samuel pressed the pocket watch into Harper's palm. "This is your father's legacy," he whispered. "End what he started." Harper closed her fingers around the watch, but before she could take a step toward the suite door, her phone buzzed. A final message from the unknown number. Just one sentence. "Midnight is now. Turn around." Harper's body stiffened at the anonymous message vibrating in her hand. "Midnight is now. Turn around." She slowly lifted her gaze, and the moment she turned, everything inside her dropped. A man stood at the end of the hallway, tall, hooded, hands clasped calmly behind his back, as if he'd been waiting for this exact second. The golden wall sconces flickered, casting his silhouette long across the carpet. Samuel whispered urgently, "Get behind me." But Harper took a step forward, breath trembling. "Who are you?" The hooded figure lifted his chin, revealing sharp features and eyes that seemed tired, not cruel, not threatening, but burdened. "I'm the one who's been trying to protect what your father died for," he said quietly. "And I needed you here tonight because tomorrow will be too late." Nicholas's voice hardened. "Identify yourself. Now." The man exhaled. "My name is Daniel Ward." Harper blinked. "Ward? As in Ward Innovations?" Daniel nodded once. "Your father helped me build my first firm. He meant a lot to me. He saved me more ways than one." His gaze softened. "And before he died, he asked me to protect his daughter. You. It's going to drain her." A tidal wave of emotion slammed into Harper. Confusion, grief, disbelief. "You've been sending the messages," she whispered. "The photos, the warnings." "Yes," Daniel said, "to keep you ahead of Brandon, but also to keep you moving toward the truth." Nicholas stepped closer, protective tension radiating off him. "Why not approach her directly?" "Because Brandon had eyes everywhere," Daniel said. "Your father suspected Brandon would try to cover his crimes by framing Harper. We created contingency plans, hidden drives, codes, witnesses." He gestured to Samuel. "Your father trusted a small circle. We've been waiting for the right time." Harper felt dizzy. "Why me? Why push me into the middle of all of this?" Daniel's eyes held something painfully familiar. "Remorse. Because Thomas believed you'd finish what he couldn't. He believed you were stronger than you ever knew." Harper swallowed hard. "And the midnight message?" Daniel stepped toward her. "The files you carry, your father's pocket watch, the flash drive Avery gave you, the copy delivered by the waiter, they're enough to dismantle Brandon's entire scheme. But only if you present them publicly before the board votes tomorrow." Nicholas frowned. "So tonight?" "Tonight," Daniel said firmly. "In the ballroom, in front of the investors. You need to expose Brandon now, while he still thinks he has the upper hand, before he can manipulate the narrative." Samuel nodded. "Once the IPO news cycle begins tomorrow, the window closes. Forever." Harper's pulse pounded. "But how do I do that? Just stand up and announce it?" "No," Daniel said. "You're going to show them." Evelyn stepped forward, regal and fierce. "I can get you the microphone." "And the projector feed," Nicholas added. "And I'll stand beside you, always." The faith surrounding her felt overwhelming but warm. Harper closed her hand tighter around the pocket watch. Her father's watch. His voice seemed to echo in her memory, calm and steady. "Do the right thing, Harper. Even when it costs you." She drew a breath. "Okay, let's end this." Daniel gave a single approving nod. But the moment they turned toward the elevator, the hallway lights flickered violently once, twice, then went out. The entire floor plunged into darkness. Harper's breath caught. "What's happening?" A sharp crash echoed at the far end of the hall, followed by rapid footsteps. Nicholas grabbed her wrist. "Harper, behind me." But before any of them could react, a voice sliced through the darkness, dripping with venom. "Close. Too close. You think you can ruin me, Harper? Think again." The voice slithered through the darkness like poison. "You think you can ruin me, Harper? Think again." Brandon. Lights snapped back on with a violent buzz. He stood only a few yards away, suit disheveled, eyes wild, desperation twisting every line of his face. Security guards scrambled behind him, but he shoved them aside with a strength born of panic. "This ends now," Brandon shouted. "You're not going to embarrass me in front of the board." Harper stepped forward before Nicholas could stop her. For the first time, she didn't flinch. "Brandon, you ended this the moment you forged my name." His face reddened. "You were supposed to stay quiet. You were supposed to disappear." "I tried," Harper said, voice steady. "But I'm done disappearing. The key brass." She lifted the pocket watch in her hand, her father's legacy gleaming under the hallway lights. Brandon lunged for it. Nicholas intercepted instantly, pinning him again, but this time Samuel and the security guards helped restrain him. Brandon thrashed, shouting incoherently, but nothing could drown out the truth anymore. Evelyn Crane spoke coldly. "Mr. Hale, you will no longer lead any company under my portfolio." Her words hit the room like a gavel. Harper turned to her. "Can we go downstairs? People need to hear the truth." Evelyn gave a regal nod. "Let's end this publicly." Within minutes, the ballroom lights dimmed and a soft chime echoed through the room, signaling a special announcement. Conversations died. Attention shifted toward the stage. Harper walked with Nicholas beside her, the pocket watch secure in her hand, Samuel following with the flash drive. Avery slipped quietly into the back of the room, pale but determined. When Harper reached the microphone, the crowd murmured in surprise. Brandon, now restrained by security near the wall, watched with pure terror as Harper faced the investors. "Good evening," she began, her voice stronger than she thought possible. "Many of you know me only as Brandon Hale's former wife. Tonight, I'm here as something else. Someone who carries the truth my father died protecting." Gasps rippled around the ballroom. Harper continued. "Brandon falsified financial records, siphoned investor funds, and framed me through manipulated login credentials. But he made one mistake." She held up the pocket watch. "He never found the evidence my father hid." Evelyn stepped forward and connected Samuel's files to the ballroom projector. Emails appeared, contracts, hidden transactions, Brandon's forged signatures, copies of original SEC reports her father had collected. The room erupted. Shouts, gasps, cameras flashing. Brandon's voice cracked from across the ballroom. "She's lying. She stole those files." But no one listened. The evidence was overwhelming. Board members scrambled together, whispering urgently. Evelyn turned to them. "Vote." It took less than 30 seconds. A board representative stepped to the stage. Effective immediately, Brandon Hale is removed as CEO, barred from company premises, and recommended for federal investigation. Cheers broke out. Actual cheers. A sob escaped Harper's throat. Relief, grief, justice, all at once. Nicholas's hand found her back, steady and warm. Security escorted Brandon from the ballroom as he shouted threats no one bothered to answer. The man who had once controlled Harper's money, career, and future was finally powerless. Samuel placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Thomas would be proud of you." Harper wiped away her tears. For the first time in years, she could breathe without pain pressing against her chest. Evelyn approached with a quiet smile. "Miss Ellis, the board would like you to lead the new ethics division on an interim basis. Your father built his career on integrity. We believe you are the right person to continue that work." Harper's voice trembled, but her answer was certain. "I would be honored." Later, when the ballroom had grown quiet, Harper stepped onto the balcony overlooking Manhattan. Snow drifted through the night while the city lights stretched beneath her like a future she had once believed was gone. Nicholas joined her. "It's over." Harper looked at him and released a long breath. "It's finally over." His expression held no pity and no obligation, only respect, warmth, and something honest. You didn't merely survive tonight, Harper. You reclaimed your life. She turned toward the city. Brandon had taken her home, her job, and nearly her belief in herself. But he had failed to take the one thing that mattered most, her ability to rise. I'm ready for whatever comes next, she said. Nicholas held out his hand. Then let's build something new. Together, if that's what you want. Harper looked at him, then placed her hand in his. I do. As snow continued to fall over Manhattan, Harper Ellis stepped into the life she had earned free from Brandon's control, vindicated before everyone who had doubted her, and finally surrounded by people who recognized her worth. Her story did not end with revenge. It ended with justice, purpose, and a new beginning no one could take from her again. Or maybe her comeback whispered something you needed to hear tonight. You know, the Stoics often said, the obstacle is the way. Meaning every heartbreak, every betrayal, every fall isn't the end. It's the doorway. Marcus Aurelius wrote, what stands in the way becomes the way. Harper didn't win because life got easier. She won because she learned to rise anyway. And so can you. Take a breath. Look at your own story with gentler eyes. Healing isn't loud. Sometimes it's just choosing not to give up today. If this story moved you, even just a little, do me a favor. Hit the like button so YouTube knows these stories matter. Share it with someone who might need the reminder. And if you want to walk with us through more journeys like this, subscribe to the channel. You're not alone here. Not now. Not ever.